Hello, and welcome back to the Carbon Capture Magazine podcast. I'm your host, Danielle Piekarski, and today we are joined by Yvonne Lam, Head of Carbon and CCUS Research at Rystad Energy. Yvonne, thank you for joining us on the podcast today.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, we're happy to have you. So, would you mind starting by telling us more about yourself and Rystad Energy as a company?
Sure. So maybe I can just start with about myself. My name is Yvonne. As you have actually introduced my positions and my title, I work for Rystad Energy. So a little bit about myself is that I have both commercial and technical educations, and I joined Rystad after work in the oil and gas industry for 10 years. And Rystad Energy is actually an energy data intelligence company and consulting company. So we actually have two arms. One belongs to the data intelligence arm, and then we have a consulting arm as well. The company start off with providing data in oil and gas industry, but in the last couple of years, as the energy industry has evolved quite extensively, we have expanded our coverage to renewables, power, clean tech, and etc. So yeah, that's brief introductions about me and the company.
Thank you. Rystad Energy recently released some research that low carbon investments are estimated to rise by $60 billion in 2023. Can you elaborate on the findings of this research?
Sure. So that research was actually a very interesting one. I guess year 2022 was actually a very good year for low carbon investments. All in all, we have experienced two consecutive years of more than 20% in terms of investment growth. However, for 2023, we actually expect that there will be a slowdown in terms of growth by about 10% overall globally. So that is what that report was about. And then just to give you a little bit of flavor on where this 60 billion US dollar growth is coming from, most of them we see that would actually come from solar and also wind investment because of the demand for renewables. But we also noticed that the high inflation in the last 2 years, where everyone is experiencing globally, has actually caused more cautions in budget spending. So that's why year 2023 will be the year to be a little bit spending with a little bit carefully on how much they would spend and keeping to the budgets. So just to give you a little bit of flavor into detail, solar investment is expected to grow by 6%. Not as high as what we would expect it compared to the overall growth, but that is because solar PV price is expected to have a deflation instead of inflation, because it has increased, the prices for solar PV has increased quite a lot in 2022, and we expect that to fall by around 20%. So that has actually contributed to the lower growth for solar power investment. And then for offshore wind, we also will expect a boom in China. There will be some growth in US, Korea, and Western Europe. And then also we see that the onshore wind is also continue to experience growth by around 12%. And then lastly, which is the highlight of this report, was that we expect that hydrogen and CCUS will experience a more than 100% growth. To be more precise, it's 136% for CCUS and 149% for hydrogen this year.
Very interesting. So regionally, where do we see most of this hydrogen and CCUS growth occurring?
Yeah, so regionally, thanks to the Inflation Reduction Act in the US, so of course that's where most of the investments would be coming from, as well as in Europe, because for hydrogen and CCUS, a lot of these projects were announced in year 2021 and 2022. So year 2023 will be the year that most of this investment will need to start off, and then to get a progress on this project itself. So that is where that it's coming from. So the regional focus will be in North America. To be more precise, it's US and Canada, as well as in Europe. But for other types of low carbon investments, Africa will experience the highest growth by about 26% because of the solar investments. And then you have followed by Australia by about 23% growth, and also China of 12% growth.
Great. Okay. Do you anticipate any major shifts or trends in CCUS for 2023?
Yes, actually, I think there will be quite a number of big shifts for CCUS in 2023. First of all, we have seen a big shift in the type of projects that's being announced. So historically, CCUS projects was having a one-to-one relationship, meaning that you have one carbon source and then you have one sink. So that means you capture the CO2 at one place and then you store them only at one place. But we see a major shift to clusters project. So that means that you will have many-to-many relationship whereby you'll have a lot of clusters project coming together, sharing the infrastructure and also sharing the storage location. And then it doesn't necessary that you will store them in one place. They could actually store the CO2 in multiple locations as well. So that's what I mean by many-to-many relationship. So in that sense, I would say this is a major shift globally. We have seen this this trend already in year 2022, but we expect this to continue towards 2023. And then the next thing is that we are seeing that investment that is actually, or in terms of new projects coming up, 2022, it was also another very significant growth year in terms of number of projects for CCUS. However, 2023, it will be a year to focus on making progress for these projects. In other words, the projects that has already been announced in the last 2 years, they will have to make progress in 2023 and 2024 so that they could meet their startup year as the expected startup year that they have announced. So that is what we are anticipating. However, due to the complexity of CCUS projects, we are also expecting around 30% of these projects. It's probably going to experience some kind of delay or postpone in the project progress. So all in all, 70% of them, 60 to 65 to 70% of them will move ahead as planned, but around 30% or a third of them, it's going to experience a delay.
Where do you see the most market potential for CCUS deployment moving forward?
I would say, of course, there's a lot of potential in terms of for short term. There's a lot of potential to have new projects or to announce new projects in Europe and North America, or in US in particular, thanks to the policies in these two regions. So for Europe, recently, EU ETS has hit more than $100 per ton. So in that case, for all the emitters that it's in Europe, which are part of the EU ETS, it becomes very expensive for them to emit CO2. So and according to our research, most of the plant would have a break-even price roughly around $100 per ton. So it will become a better investment to invest in CCUS, to have CCUS to capture the CO2, rather than to pay for the emissions. Whereas for US, because of the enhance of 45Q from IRA, emitters are getting tax credits and tax incentive from projects, CCUS projects. So in that case, we expect that more projects will be coming from the US, of course. And we have seen a surge in number of projects announcement already ever since the announcement of IRA, which is a very good thing. Even some of our customers are saying that they would like to, shift their focus a little bit to the US market. So that's definitely a big market to watch for. However, I think we should also pay a little bit of attention to other parts of the world as well.
All right, we are coming near the end of our time here, Yvonne. Do you have anything else that you would like to add?
Yes. So for year 2023, it's definitely a very interesting year for CCUS market. Definitely a things that we need to watch. However, we are also seeing that we started to experience some bottlenecks for CCUS projects deployment. So I would say that how CCUS projects is going to play out for the next decade will have to depend on a couple of things that needs to happen now. First of all, it's the policy. So we can see that the IRA, for example, has already have a huge impact on the CCUS market. So this needs to be replicated or at least have some sort of comparable incentive for large deployment of CCUS moving forward in other parts of the world. And then second thing is that the bottlenecks on the missing link, which is on the infrastructure and also the storage. We have seen that there's a lot of capture projects that's being announced, but the market penetrations in terms of the addressable market for CCUS, it's still quite low. One of the issues is that you always have this chicken and egg debate on whether you should have infrastructure first or whether you should have the capture plants first. So I think the investment for infrastructure is actually quite crucial in this, because building infrastructure will take a lot more time compared to having a capture plant on an emission plant itself, because it involves, for example, multiple states, and also it involves applying for permits, and also a lot of discussions on environmental issues and things like that. So that will be something that really need to ramp up in order for us to see a major, huge change in the CCUS market moving forward. That's all from me. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Again, we are joined by Yvonne Lam, Head of Carbon and CCUS Research at Rystad Energy. Thank you again, Yvonne.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. And thank you to our listeners for tuning into today's podcast. If you are interested in being a guest, please reach out to Carbon Capture Magazine. And until next time.